About 45 minutes late today. Woke up this morning, I was a little bit groggy, didn't know if I wanted to be able to commit to a full stream. Took about 30 minutes to make that decision, so we're gonna swap over to the game. Alright, there we go. Let me turn on the sound. Right, so when we left off last time, we had just got one of our satellites into orbit around the Mun. And it's getting a little bit hectic, so let's turn that off. That's min-miss. This one's the Mun. Yep. So we took this money one. We had to put it in a weird didn't require an inclined orbit for the contract. We just had to get it into an equatorial orbit, and then we adjusted it into an inclined orbit that's highly eccentric, so we could get magnetometer data. That's been running, you know, for a few minutes. May have been registered as a day at this point. Also, last episode we were able to adjust these relay satellites. In case you didn't watch the stream or the video recap, when we launched them, we lost communication with the vessel used to inject these communication satellites into the proper orbit. So none of these were even in the correct orbit, and none of them were in the were phased correctly. So we had to perform that adjustment. So now for today, I'm not quite sure what we're going to be doing. We're going to mission control, and we can see what contracts we have currently active. Ooh. We got a couple of them related to the Kerbal system. Well, Kerbal itself. One of them is this equatorial orbit around Kerbal, which we were able to see that orbital line in the map view. This might be what we need to go for, just because we're going to get some of these extra funds from that. And then the other one that we're currently working on is pressing this Kerbal Research 02 into an adjusted orbit, and we just have to wait for it to reach the correct point within its orbit, so we can adjust its periapsis at that point. Everything else here is related to the moon. We have another one of these Mun contracts, and then the likes of that. Let's see if there's anything else available. So there's placing another relay satellite in orbit around the Mun. That will give us about 90,000 funds total, which would be super useful. And this gives us, I don't think it has an expire date, but does have a contract complete date. Let me see. What do those normally get worded as? Duration. Alright, so it does not have a duration, so this might be something that we should accept. Alright, and satellites, position of satellite, specific orbit around min-miss. This would be a really nice contract, because we get a whole lot of funds, and then we also get that 14 signs, which would be very useful. We don't have any additional SCANsat stuff, and then we're not going to get into tourism anytime soon. Okay. So there are two possible avenues that we could take at this point. Right now we could work on increasing our relay around Kerbal, around the Mun. Or we could start thinking about launching up another research vessel around Kerbal that I had worked on. So let me see if I can find it. I think it says Research 3. And in case you're wondering why there's this unknown part modules, I used to have the scrap yard mod installed, and I uninstalled it. It was causing some issues with Delta V readouts and stuff. Alright, so I think this has already been completed. And what this will do is, if we zoom in a little bit, we had built this last stream It has 2 magnetometer booms, and then I believe we also have... This only has a radiation scan, so... Yep, that's correct. So we got a radiation scan on here, and we got the magnetometer. This entire craft to be placed in an inclined orbit, probably around 80 degrees or 90 degrees. Can't remember what it would be. We can look at the map view and see what it should... I don't know the exact number, and I don't know if there is an exact number. Looking at the tracking station, we could get a view of this. So with Kerbalism, if you press B, you get this body info window. And then there are a little difficult to see. If you zoom out, you can see them. You get these weird clouds here. And so these are clouds of radiation. And so they are inclined themselves. So if you look at the Mun is at 0 inclination. These things maybe have like a 30-degree inclination, 25, something like that. So with this magnetometer, it can obtain science within any of these different belts. So it can obtain science with no radiation belt. It can obtain it if it's going in between this belt. I mean, it's a single belt, but this is the lower of it, and this is the upper end of it. Same thing for here, and then same thing for this. For this, it's just anything, I think, on the inside, but it might be on the outside. See, I don't know that much about this. So all I know is we're supposed to put our craft in an inclined orbit. Looks like we have a lot of funds at this point, so maybe we'll start by launching that, and then we got about another hour after this, so we'll try to possibly... It says it's not done yet. Interesting. Alright, I guess we'll have to wait till this is complete. So while that is working, we can work on creating a craft for... What does this say? Oh, there it is. I didn't see the build time, all I saw was the rollout time. We load up our CommNet Alpha relay. Yep, that's correct. What this did was this had 3 relay antennas, or 3 relay satellites. I'm gonna rename this to Mun Alfa relay. And so one of the first problems we had was when I initially launched these and I put them in orbit around Kerbin. When I deployed my fairing, it broke off one of these bottom antennas, and I don't like that. So first thing I'm going to do is can't push this in too much because it'll butt up against that. We didn't get the better engines, but we did get this Terrier. So there's a couple things we got to work on right here. The actual satellites themselves are fine, but what I want to do is push these up a little bit. So do we have any little structural pieces? That's the smallest one we got. One thing that I did do in the past was I used one of these little mystery goo inline units. Why am I missing? Delete the bearing. There we go. Now I can see things again. Right. So that's one of the problems that we have, is this can technically only fit 2. So I was hoping to launch all 3. I guess that's why we didn't have this in the first place. I guess one thing that we could do is... No, that actually wouldn't do anything. Alright, we'll just put this back the way it was. And we'll just make the fairing a little bigger. Well, 4 sides. Clamshell deploy, I always have that on. I know it's safer for the craft if it's off, but I don't really like the confetti look. And then we'll just try to build the fairing a little better. Right. So I pushed it out a little bit more. So hopefully... Now one thing that I noticed when I did deploy it is it shot forward a little bit. And so what I think I'm going to do is the reason why I shot forward a little bit was because I wasn't accelerating. All my engines had been turned off. And so what I think I'm going to try to do is have this upper stage firing just a little bit. Just have a hair on the throttle. And that'll cause us to be accelerating, which will hopefully cause these fairings to shoot downwards. Well, from the perspective of the craft, it'll be backwards, but I think we're gonna get rid of that. I think, did we get larger? We did get larger fuel tanks. Probably just get rid of all this. This little service bay right here just has a little probe with antenna. We need to adjust this antenna to point to the 310.9, the Mun private channel. And that's another thing we'll have to do with these antennas. One of these is going to be 310.9. The other one is going to be pointing to 300, I think. Yeah, Kerbalism public channel. Right, that should all be good. This is working. These have solar panel. Don't have to worry about any of that. Okay, so now I do have a little sheet with all the delta V's on it, but sadly I put the microphone on top of it. I can't get too much view, but I know it's 860 to get to the Mun, and then I believe it's like 280 or something to get a capture. And we'll just do a direct injection because when you're going to the Mun, there's not really any benefit to using the Oberth effect. So 860 plus 280, about 1200, you know, a little bit less. So let's see how much this gives us. This gives us 1600, which is actually perfect. So we'll actually get an additional 450. I usually round these things down, so we'll get an additional 400 delta V to get our Mun encounter. So the 450 will be to finish or getting an orbit around Kerbin, and then we'll have 1200-ish to get into the proper encounter and orbit around the Mun, which is great. Let's build out this stage. Go a little reliable here. And this is going to be at sea level. So for this bottom stage, because we're getting 450 here, we'll need about I'd say 3200. Can't tell, I did just wake up about an hour ago, so my brain is not fully on yet. Let's see what this gives us. Put a thumper on there. Volume in one stage. Gives us about 2400. 2,700, which is not enough. So either we can have some intermediate stage, or we can just make this stage a little beefier, which I think that's what I'd prefer to do. That is not what I... Come on, attach to the nodes properly. There we go. Alright, so this stage is going to get about 2,200 now, which is an extra 1,000, which means this bottom stage would only need about 2,400. Which, if we look at sea level, we're going to get about 2,300. And then at vacuum, we'll get... Let's see. This bottom one's always going to be sea level, so 1,100 plus 1,300 gives the 2,400. So this should be more than sufficient to get us into the orbit that we'd like. A little aerodynamic stuff. I like these nose cones that curve inwards. They always just look cooler. Right. And what I might do is save off this booster as a subassembly, just depending on what the weight of our craft is. There we go. This one okay as well? There we go. Right. Put on some of these stabilizers. Right, that's a good looking vessel. Our top stage in vacuum will get 1.5, which I think will be great. Ooh, but this bottom stage is going to give us 2. I'll let us lower down the thrust on this just a little bit. There we go. Actually, put up to... I normally put it around, try to get my delta V, my thrust to weight ratio at the surface to be around 1.4. I think I'll try with a higher one this time and just see what happens. That'll allow me to reduce the throttle on this much sooner, which will leave me with a larger tank up front. Okay, we got all these guys ready. Did I set their names up correctly? Oh. Is it? I can never remember. And we already have 4 of these, so this would be number 5. This would be number 6. This would be number 7. And you... Oh, that's already named correctly. Okay. So I think that's everything that we need. Just make sure the staging is correct. These guys are staged with 0%. We disabled the staging on that. It's fine. You can actually... I thought there was a way to disable staging for the part. One thing I will do is come into this and rigid attachment. It's already set to grandparent. Rigid attachment set to grandparent. Once again, I don't know the difference between rigid attachment and auto strut. I know auto strut is like far better. I think based on the wording, my assumption is rigid attachment just means that the parts aren't likely to flex, but when they do flex, they're more likely to break. If anybody knows, tell me. And one thing that I did learn pretty early on is to never do rigid attachment to the grandparent. I mean to the root part, because that always causes issues. All right. This is ready. Staging all looks correct. It looks like a standard rocket, so I don't know if we need to spend money testing it. I think it's the kind of thing where I'll just launch it and see what happens. How do we add it? Oh, here we go. We build it. It's not actually going to take 143 days. I just don't have any research points, so this research 3 is going to complete, and then we'll work on this. Okay, so that's what's going to be happening for us. Close out that. Close out that. So if we leave here, and don't worry, we will time accelerate it away. I just want to take a look at our research and development, because there's 2 pieces of research that I wanted to look into getting. First one is propulsion systems. That'll get us some of these miniaturized thrusters, smaller tanks. Super useful making these tiny little probes. I think the next milestone that I want to start working towards is putting some landers on Mun. If we could get, I don't know, 3 or 4 different landers going to different biomes, I think that would get us a lot of science. We wouldn't even have to get any of the samples to return. And then the second piece of research that I wanted was electrics, specifically for this HD20 high gain antenna, and that's what's going to give us some access to Minmus. And I think the other benefit that I get from this is I just get these the photovoltaic panels that extend, and these are really my preference. I'm not a huge fan of the these like single loop panels. It's not, I don't have any issues with it, I'm just not a big fan of it. Both of those cost 90 research. I'm gonna avoid these for now. I don't see too much benefit in getting it, so we do need about 145. No, we need about 135 more science to get both of them. Yeah, 135. Great. So I think what we'll do is we'll open this up and warp to complete. Did something happen? Why did it stop? Let's look at the alarm clock. It stopped for some reason. I wish it would tell me why it stopped, but the VAB didn't finish. Although I think it did just... Did it accelerate 20 days, but it didn't actually reduce the time enough? Nothing here is broken, to my knowledge. Alright. Also, this thing. We have too many windows open. Close out of windows. It turns out this thing won't actually deorbit unless we fly it. For the simple fact that when something is on rails, if it's not within physics range, what is considered the atmosphere is much lower. I think it's like 25 kilometers or something. So this is just going to keep going around. Its periapsis is 38,000 meters. I hope everybody accepts that if Kerbal would properly simulate these things, it would deorbit. I have nothing valuable on here. I'm just going to go ahead and destroy the rocket. Long-winded way to excuse my own actions. Terminate you, yeah. And I'm going to pay closer attention to this. So right now it's at 15. And of course it's going to stop again because we just finally reached this mission's time. So alright, delete close. Where go we? What are you? Your research? Yep. Why you? Let's make a quick adjustment and then we'll go back into it. Okay, you want to go retrograde. I'll delete this maneuver and then we'll just burn down. Right, easy enough. I think at some point we're going to get into an encounter with the Mun. That might be fun. Right, so quick 16,000 funds. Back tracking station and we'll finish this out. Why did the time increase again? I thought it was almost complete. Oh, the money is having some issues with solar, is that it? Also, this needs to get renamed, I think. What am I calling my other research vessels? Per Research 1. This would be Mun Research 1. But what are my... these things are per Alpha. Okay, so it's planet, then vessel type. So this would be... It is a probe, by the way. Mun. I think we're 00. I'll just say it's Mun Research 01. Yep. So hopefully that'll get us the sun. I'm just trying to launch a rocket, man. Okay, that is getting a little on my nerves. We could go into auto. No, it's failures. Log. Config. There we go. Battery. Supply. Liability. There we go. Roll out. Awesome. Can minimize you. Let's look at our belts real quick and see. I think we'll be fine going into maybe a 70. I think your goal, and I can't really show it that well, but the outer belt has this period where it will slowly insert itself into sort of the poles, and I think your goal is to get it to be as close to that as possible, which will allow you to have a low. I think that will allow you to have a low orbit, a low semi-major axis, but still give you all the telemetry that you need. I don't know. Let's just launch it. 70-degree inclination. We'll see what happens. A little wobbly up top. Just running that check real quick. Okay. Got everything ready, I believe. You're pointed the right way. That's actually, I think we're pointed the complete wrong way. That's an annoyance. Okay. So we want to go up and to the east. I'd say about 70 degrees, but don't know it perfectly. Maybe at about that angle, I'd say. We're going to go to the left from the perspective of this Navball. Ooh, I want to fall over. And I think this is looking like it's going to be a pretty high gravity turn, so final apoapsis might be a little unwieldy, but we should have plenty of delta V in this upper stage to get wherever we need to go. Actually gonna pull this over a little harder. Orbit's coming up. There we go. That actually looks pretty good. We have so much fuel on this thing. Okay. Wasn't paying attention. My apoapsis got a little bit away from me, but we should be fine. Good detachment. What kind of antenna did I have on this thing? Oh, we had a good antenna. Or we had one that's always active. Alright, should be fine. This point prograde. Let our apoapsis come back to us. What I'm going to do is cut this out now. Let that deorbit, and then we'll finish wherever we're going with this upper stage. So this will put us cleanly in the upper belt. I mean the lower belt right here. Looks to be pretty good, and then at the other side we'll boost periapsis. So we are in a full orbit, so we're fine in any regard. Oh yeah, remember this thing was going to try to return. Good luck with that. Are both of these running? Is that how that works? I'm going to look at data. Okay. I hope it's not going twice as fast. I only put 2 of them on there because I thought it looked cooler. Where's the sun? That'll be fine. Whatever. Just want to get rid of these belts. I'll just push my apoapsis until it's cleanly in the upper, the outer belt. Right. I think we're golden. We're going into the inner belt. That one's going to actually take a little bit longer than we'd like. We go into the outer belt, we go into whatever period this is between them. Then we come out of the outer belt up here, which I think might be in the magnetopods. And so if we look at this window here, the science archive, we filter by current vessel, magnetometer report. Around Kerbin, you get inner belt, outer belt, magnetosphere. Oh, we can just look at the situations. Space high, space. It's the space low outer belt, the one that we're like trying to figure out what's going on with it. I don't know how to get space low. I don't think we're gonna get space low for any of these things. But we can make adjustments later on. So this thing's just gonna keep going for a while. While that is happening, we can run the Dark Alamy. Accelerate out here. Ooh, that's one thing. I did install the Scatterer mod over the weekend, and I played around with it. I tried playing with some of the other visual enhancement mods, but the one that gave the best sort of improvement without causing my graphics card to sound like it's a jet engine was the Scatterer mod. I think it looks pretty amazing. This is even with it on the medium preset. I mean, I like the way it makes the planet glow. I like the flare, which doesn't seem very realistic, being that, I don't know. If you consider the screen a camera, yeah, but what am I doing? Trying to rotate this to point towards the sun, but I can't figure out the stop. Where are you going? Oh, abilities. Right. Stop what you're doing. Go this way. Right, 99 exposure, that's fine. Okay, what was I getting to about before? Here, start the radiation scan. Let us start the mystery goo. Then our materials bay. This is the one that's going to suck all our power. So we're just gonna have to baby this one until the materials bay is done. It's not running. Oh, I guess it's already finished. Some previous mission. Alright, materials bay finished. Recharge. I think we're good. How fast are we able to transmit? 2 kilobytes a second. So I guess it's full. And can we transfer data here? Is that what I wanted to do? I have this sample. Is this where it came from, or is this where it is currently? I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Alright, this mission was largely a success. Let's go back to the Space Center, see if there's any new contracts for the Mun, and then let's finish out that Mun mission. CommNet, you already have that one. What kind of achievement? Mun probe. Part testing. Nothing significant. Polar orbit of the Mun. This could be something that's fun to do. Just have a science junior on board. Reach a polar orbit. It's pretty low orbit. Because one thing I do intend on doing is scanning the Mun. And so this might be a way that I could achieve that. I would just have to put the Science Junior on board. I think that's what I'll do. And we can't launch it until we get the relay. I mean, we could launch it beforehand, but I don't think I would be able to easily. No. Depends on how I get my encounter, where the periapsis would be. But either way, let's just build out this rocket real quick. Open this. I think we already have one. I think it's research 2. Okay, that's fine. Not research 2. Maybe it's research 1. Yep. So research 1 is my low resolution altimetry scanner. This is the one that I currently have in orbit around Kerbin. We don't need this high gain antenna. Correct. I mean, we do need I would like a high gain antenna for the simple fact that this has the highest max speed out of all the antennas that we have right now. But we only need the one. Problem is, it looks better when there's 2 of them. Okay, whatever. I'll just have 2. Set them to 319, the Mun private network. I'll set this one to go to Kerbin public for now. And this is just for the launch and the transfer. Once I actually get to the Mun, I'll switch that over to the Mun private as well. It's going to be research 4. Mun scanner. And I believe the contract said we needed a science junior on it. Here we go. Yep, a science junior. Now, I don't plan on running the science junior, so I won't account for it in any of the calculations for how much electricity I need. But if we configure these unmanned experiments, let's look at the science archive. The mite. We have a whole bunch of mite data around Kerbin. We have nothing around the Mun, so I'll take the mite for the simple fact that it goes into all these different biomes. Okay. Then radiation scan might not be the best. You know, bring a radiation scanner. There's light. And then there is sight. Space high biomes. Interesting. How does sight work? Doesn't one of the... Yeah, might requires an atmosphere. About to make a mistake on that one. So we will use sight. And also it's space high, which is better because this is a scanner. I'd like it to be relatively high. Good old telemetry. Then there's light. Looks like we already did light based on what money has, so maybe I'll just do a standard telemetry report. Although it's already done. Okay, maybe we don't need any of this. We'll go Geiger counter. Right. Had to put all of these on here just because this thing sucks up power like there's no tomorrow. Do we have a better... Actually, I put those there just for the capacity, didn't I? Yeah. Alright. And I was going to save that rocket as a subassembly. Let's jump over there and do that real quick. We're looking for the COM3 relay. How much does all of that weigh? I'll say 2 tons. This is a 2-ton launcher. To Minmus. To the Mun. Launch vehicles. Can I type it? There we go. How much does this weigh? 0.8 tons. Oh, we're golden. All right. Get a payload on here. Okay. Launch everything. At atmosphere, we'll get 1300 at 1.7. Keep in mind, this is not tested, so I guess we're gonna test this. We're gonna test it soon, and then we'll be in the vacuum. We'll get another 1200. It's about 2600. And this upper stage will give us well over 1,000 to get there. And I think the intention is to keep... What I'll do is I'll move you down and I will put a small little hug on here. I don't really care about the fuel, I just don't want to keep this intermediate stage. And with that, I need to edit the fairing. Oh, that's good. Awesome. I think this is ready to go. Launch those, detach, pop both of those. This will eject soon after, and that's the final. This should... I'm going to make that crash into the Mun. Oh, one thing I wanted to do was put, like... I think I may already have them, but I'm just going to put small little scanners somewhere. Don't need the barometer because there's no atmosphere. Don't need mystery goo. We have the Geiger counter in here. Yep. Alright. Looks good. And we got the radar altimeter. Add you to our build list. Might not get around to launching that. I think I'm gonna quickly focus in on getting the relays out. Awesome. What are the upgrade points? How many points do I'm trying to never figure out how this works. That's not what I want. That's the configuration. Upgrades, that's what I wanted. Let's see. Because things are starting to take a lot longer. And this is where the scrapyard mod would have been super helpful. Because a lot of these parts I'm using, like 10 of them in a single build, and I'm using them over and over and over again. For science and 16,000 funds gives us 1 point. I don't really want to start spending funds on this for the simple fact that we're not generating, we're not in the millions yet. And I still haven't upgraded everything to the max. So we might just have to deal with these 20, 30 day build times. Hopefully when we get to like space planes, because those are recoverable, I hope they'll go a little bit faster. All right, so it's Mun Alfa relay. This is our first time using this booster, so hopefully we don't have any mistakes. $1.6, that's good. Just to wait. Plenty of fuel. Quick save it just in case there's a Kraken attack. Right, hopefully there's no mistakes. Triple check my staging. Yeah, everything looks good. We're just gonna go pure equatorial and then eject ourselves to the Mun. everything, this is actually a pretty comfortable launch, all things considered. I was struggling a little bit to push this over because we were going so fast through the atmosphere, but all in all, this is pretty easy. Apoapsis is getting pretty good. Got our T-minus going well. I want to keep our T-minus at about 1 minute. That means we're going to be 1 minute away from reaching our apoapsis pretty much at all times. And I usually try to keep that for most of the ascent, actually. Alright, this stage is gonna burn out. One thing I did want to change is I want to put this the next stage. Perfect. We are almost high enough where I can... Which one are you? Open up these antenna. Guess we'll go to a parking orbit, 80 kilometers. Can't see anything, which means you guys can't see anything. All right. Get to our apoapsis and then regularize and on our way up to the moon. All right, and probably going to be out here. Now, I don't know what orbit I should be going into. I'm just going to pick one. Then we can fine tune it later. So let's see. The moon is 200 kilometers in, I think it's a radius, which means that our minimum altitude can be 200 kilometers above that. I think I set the, based on the settings, it's 1.1. So I'd want to be at least 4, or I would like my semi-major axis to be at 240. Yeah. And 300 seems fine. Yeah, 300 seems fine. Right. Everything is still set up here. Yep. And I only have about 10 minutes left, so after we probably get this to the Mun, into a parking orbit around the Mun, we'll have to finish out for the day. Perfect. 350. I'd like to fine tune that, but we can actually do that when we get there. And we should be facing towards Kerbin when we get there, which will give us a connection, which is good. Orbit there's 350. Ooh, was close. Accelerated too fast there. Almost lost it. Now, I would like my orbital period to be somewhere in the order of 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, something like that, which make it a little bit easier to figure this out. And so, our orbital period right now is 4 hours. Almost at 3 hours. 350, 400. I go here a little bit more. I think my goal would be to get an orbital period of 3 hours. Which is somewhere between 400 and 350. I'll say the difference, 375, see where that puts us. Yep, that looked like it's gonna do it. Are we gonna have a connection at Apoapsis? Alright, we got 3 hours here. Now, I've been wasting a lot of fuel, and that's just because we have so much fuel that we can afford to waste. What I will do now is I'm going to push my period up to 4 hours, and that'll put us on our injection orbit. And I want this to be... I'm wasting all these ignitions. How much? 13 left. Gotta be careful. And as soon as I say that... Oh, that's annoying. Okay, so this is just going to be orbital debris. Alright, so Kerbalism had that engine malfunction. It said we were going to have 13 ignitions left. Looks like it lied. Luckily we can salvage that. We can salvage this because these relay antennas have so much delta V in them. But that is a story for next time. I appreciate anybody that tuned in to watch the stream. I appreciate anybody that is going to watch the video afterwards. If you have any suggestions, don't be afraid to leave a comment. Yeah, thank you.